What if you and I had a dream school? Ano kaya yun? Would it have dinosaurs like experiments? Little things that become big. What if we could suddenly see invisible things? Would it have a giant heart or a big, big brain? Or flies into outer space? May sagot sa ating mga tanong, pero tuturuan din tayo magtanong. Okay lang din magkamali, so that we learn so much more. Sa dream school natin, learning is never boring. It's always an adventure. How do we do that? What do we do with the power of science, art and imagination? All the wonders you will find in the mind is school.
Tara na! Join us as we explore Mind School, the coolest space for science and art ideas.
Step into amazing portals with us, where extraordinary, weird, and mind-blowing connections
Come to life! Diyan tayo pupunta. Di ba parating yung naririnig ngayon na it's okay to not be okay?
Aba, up to date kayo, Manong G, ah.
Haha! Well, meron akong balita sa inyo. Ang pagka-okay ng lahat ng tao ay nakadepende kung okay ang kalikasan, ang biodiversity.
Oo nga, Manong G. Yung time natin sa RUR, The Real You Revealed, nabuksan talaga ang isip namin na I am biodiversity and biodiversity is me.
Napakalinaw na ang kalusugan natin ay nakadepende sa biodiversity. I really need and want to know the state of biodiversity's health, especially dito sa Pilipinas.
Tara na!
Uy! Hi! Welcome to OK Clinic.
Andito po pala kayo, Kuya Aldrin.
Medyo, hindi ba nasabi sa inyo ni Manong G, ang OK Clinic ay partner ng RUR. Doon kayo nanggaling, di ba? To discover who you are, di ba?
Ngayon alam nyo na.
Kakaiba yung mga images dito sa OK Clinic, Kuya Aldrin, ha?
Kasi sa OK Clinic, we do tests and come up with images to diagnose the health of our biodiversity. Katulad din ng mga medical check-ups ng tao. May mga kailangan malaman ng mga ecologists like us. Ang mga ecologists, yung mga scientists that look at the relationship of living things and non-living things, nakatulad ko, tungkol sa estado ng biodiversity or health ng biodiversity.
Ito po yung ibig niyong sabihin, Kuya Aldrin, yung mapa ng Pilipinas?
Oo, pag napansin niyo yung mapa na yan, Pecier, makita mo kung paano nalagas yung gubat from 1900s to present, no? So, siguro naman alam niyo kung anong kahalagahan ng gubat, no?
Sa tingin nyo, bakit importante ang mga forests sa atin? Is it because A. Forests are the life support of bodies of water? B. They give us air to breathe? C. They manage soil health? Or D. All of the above? If you answered all of the above, tama kayo! Pati na rin ang pag-regulate ng panahon at klima, may mahalagang role ang mga gubat natin.
While the reality of Maria Makiling's existence has never been proven, Mount Makiling itself, its majestic beauty, and the rich bounty of resources and environmental services that it has provided is real. First established as a protected area in 1910, the Mount Makiling Forest Reserve has been under the care of UPLB since 1960. It covers an area of over 4,000 hectares and was declared an ASEAN Heritage Park in 2013. Mount Makiling boasts of an impressive diversity of flora and fauna, endemic, native, and introduced. Mount Makiling functions as both laboratory for forestry students and a tree nursery as UPLB leads efforts to study and preserve endangered tree species.
Mas mababahala kayo pag nakita niyo itong images na ito. Yan ang map ng key biodiversity areas ng Pilipinas.
Key biodiversity areas? Ano po yun, Kuya Aldrin?
Ang key biodiversity areas, yan yung mga areas kung nasaan yung maraming biodiversity na natitira. Let me illustrate, no? Imagine niyo Noah's Ark. Di ba Noah's Ark, all the representative animals were collected and they went to the Ark. Ganon din yung key biodiversity areas natin. Each key biodiversity area represent an endemic species and has those endemic species of plants and animals. So, pag nawala ang kahit isa dyan sa key biodiversity area na yan, hindi makukumpleto yung arc. So, mawawalan tayo ng mga endemic species.
Ay naku, nakakabahala nga po yan, Kuya Aldrin. Kung andyan ang susi ng megadiversity ng bayan natin, tapos nasira pala ang ugnayan ng mga yan dahil wala ng forest, malaki din ang mawawala sa biodiversity.
Oo, tulad nga ng Eastern Mindanao, I'll just illustrate again. Alam niyo ba, nawawala dyan sa Eastern Mindanao is about 6,300 hectares every year. Ang laki niyan ay imagine niyo the size of 150 SM Mall of Asia. So ang laki nun. At dahil dyan, apektadong maraming endemic species ng biodiversity katulad ng napakagandang ibon na ito, yung bleeding heart pigeon, which lives in forest at hindi yan mabubuhay sa hindi forest.
Grabe no? At sa Mindoro din pala, deforestation is so severe. 4,211 hectares o 100 na MOAs kada taon ang nawawala.
Well, unfortunately, paulit-ulit ang istorya na yan sa iba't ibang parte ng bayan natin.
Sa mga wetlands po ba ng Pilipinas, ganun din ang kwento?
Well, teacher, unfortunately, ang state ng wetlands natin ay hindi nalalayo. Most of our wetlands are being converted to something else. They're being drained and converted to residential areas, or commercial development, or even airports.
Pag nawala ang wetlands, bukod sa mawawala ang sandamakmak na klase ng buhay dito, wala na rin tayong proteksyon sa mga malalakas na alon, pati na sa mga baha. Sa pag-filter ng pollution at pagsala ng tubig para luminis ito.
Yes, diretso na naman ang effect sa kalusugan din nating mga tao bilang parte ng biodiversity.
Well, ganun din ang sitwasyon sa dagat. Di ba alam niyo naman na ang Pilipinas ay parte ng Coral Triangle. Yung Verde Island Passage, alam niyo ba yun? Yun yung nasa gitna ng Mindoro at Batangas. It happens to be the apex or the center of marine biodiversity in the Coral Triangle.
Importante lang po ba ito dahil sa dami ng marine biodiversity?
Hindi lang dahil sa diversity, Mikey. Kasi 80% of our population live in coastal areas. Dahil ang coastline natin ay 33,900 kilometers ang haba. We're next to Indonesia in terms of the length of our coastline. And 70% of all our municipalities are coastal municipalities. So maraming Pilipino ang nakadepende sa mga coastal areas na ito para sa kanilang kabuhayan.
Kaya pala damay-damay talaga tayo kung anong mangyari sa karagatan, no?
At ngayon, we have lost 70% of our marine species. Our seas are overfished. Only 4% of our coral reefs are in excellent condition, and only 31% are in good condition. We are also the world's third largest plastic polluter of the oceans.
This is Megadiverse Philippines. And it gets even significantly richer with Benham Rice, a Philippine continental shelf of mesophotic reefs. The dugong, the whale, marine turtles, shark, manta rays, fish, and water birds. It is no surprise that in their migratory path, the Philippines is an important destination. Here, they breed and forage in the rich marine wetlands and forest ecosystems. Here, their migratory site is protected. An important habitat of thousands of migratory birds within the East Asian Australasian flyway, several of which are internationally critical for conservation of migratory water birds. An important home in their migration. The world's biggest fish, the whale shark or butanding, also finds home in the archipelago. While largely pelagic or deep water dwellers, the gentle giants occasionally gather near shore for feeding. While in Philippine waters, their sanctuaries, they too are protected.
Kaya nga napakalaking tragedy na ang diagnosis namin ng biodiversity ng Pilipinas dito sa OK Clinic ay hindi siya okay. Meaning, we have a biodiversity crisis.
Illegal wildlife trade and forest loss now threaten the world's biodiversity, especially in the Philippines, which is now listed as one of the world's hotspots for biodiversity loss. Human activities such as illegal logging, irresponsible mining, unsustainable farming, and overfishing have a direct impact on the environment. The lack of concern with regards to our collective human impact towards the environment, such as neglect to consider alternative renewable sources of energy, disregarding the concept of conservation, failure to reduce our individual consumption, as well as our failure to recycle reusable materials, further strains the already weak ecosystem. It is said that man may have unknowingly started to dig his own grave with the loss of biodiversity. The impact of human actions towards the environment is putting a strain on the delicate balance between human demands and long-term sustainability. If left to continue on its own present destructive path, biodiversity may soon become only a living memory etched in photographs and video clips. It's not yet too late. Together, we can conserve resources and save our habitat. Each of us would need to do our own part in reversing environmental destruction. Simple actions such as proper disposal of waste, repairing leaking faucets, replacing incandescent bulbs with energy-efficient ones will go a long way to ease the pressure on our weakened environment. Not patronizing illegally traded wildlife will ensure the survival of countless species and would go a long way to conserve our biodiversity.
Napakaswerte ng Pilipinas, no? Na ang bayan natin ay ridge to reef. Ibig sabihin, magmula sa kabundukan hanggang sa karagatan and everything in between, meron tayo.
Kaya nga napakalaking tragedy na ang diagnosis namin ng biodiversity ng Pilipinas dito sa OK Clinic ay hindi siya okay. Meaning, we have a biodiversity crisis. Ang problemang ito ay sumabay pa sa climate crisis.
Pero bakit climate crisis ang tawag sa kanya? Bakit hindi na lang climate change?
Well, kasi nga, the rate of destruction is happening in an unprecedented rate. That's why it's a crisis. Itong climate crisis ang main cause kung bakit may outbreak ng diseases, extreme weather events like flooding, drought, freak typhoons, and incidentally, the loss of biodiversity results in climate change. So it's really a vicious cycle. Kaya kung hindi okay ang biodiversity, ano magiging life support system natin?
Oo nga, Nabasa ko nga na nabawasan ng sustansya ng parehong amount ng bigas dahil sa climate crisis. At ang air pollution direktong nakakaapekto sa DNA ng mga bata at sa IQ ng mga taong naapektuhan nito. Studies also show that the climate crisis is causing anxiety and fear in those most affected.
Tama yan, Fisher. Hindi separate ang nangyayari sa atin at nangyayari sa kalikasan. We absorb all of these dahil kumakain tayo, humihinga, at kailangan natin ng mga likas na yaman sa iba pa nating needs. Alam nyo, over 50% of the viruses that have caused epidemics since the earliest memory are zoonotic in nature. Ibig sabihin, galing yan sa wildlife at ang mga viruses na ito ay usually occur in nature. Kaya lang, ang nangyayari, we are encroaching on their natural habitats. Kaya yun, nagtatransfer yung microorganisms and they find their way into the human system.
And did you know, hindi lang yung physical health natin yung affected, pati yung mental health natin ay apektado kapag may disconnect sa nature. A study showed that in the earlier phase of the lockdown dito sa Pilipinas, 1/4 of their respondents reported moderate to severe anxiety, and 1/6 reported moderate to severe depression and psychological impact. Ngayong pandemic, yan ang isa sa mga nakakaapekto sa atin, sa ating mental health, because of our extended isolation from nature.
Yes, our psyche kasi is actually in sync with nature. Kung hindi okay ang nature, hindi rin tayo magiging okay. Di ba? Nakaka-good vibes pag nakita mo ang ganda-ganda ng beach, turquoise color, pero pagka ang dumi-dumi, kaka-depress, di ba?
Naalala mo ba, Pecier, yung kasama natin yung buong team tapos overtime na tayo sa trabaho, so we decided to take a break for an hour. Some of us went to the mall and some of us decided to take a walk in the greenery nearby.
Oh, I remember that. The ones who went to the mall felt that their minds were still anxious about work, but the ones who went to the park felt more relaxed afterwards.
Kaya simula nun, we really remind ourselves to take a walk in greeneries or near bodies of water for breaks if possible.
Because for most of our lives as humans, hindi talaga tayo naka-isolate from nature. Naka-imprint na yan sa DNA natin. So pag may disconnect tayo from nature, may negative effects talaga.
Salamat talaga, Kuya Aldrin, ha? Kakaiba talagang check-up na ito para sa aming health.
We really appreciate it po, Kuya Aldrin, na iba yung pagtingin namin pag sinasabing well-being. Hindi lang ito tungkol sa human health. Parating nakakabit ang well-being ng biodiversity.
Yes, okay talaga tayo kung okay ang biodiversity. Kung may oras nga kayo, sana ma-witness nyo yung parada.
Ha? May parade? Na mangyayari ngayon?
Wow! Ano po yung kailangan namin gawin para ma-witness ang parade?
Tanungin nyo si Manong G, siya may alam niyan.
Manong G, kanina ka pa namin hinahanap. Ikaw daw yung may alam kung paano kami makakasali sa parade.
Sinabi na pala sa inyo ni Kuya Aldrin. Kaya nga iniwan ko kayo doon kasi gusto ko sanang siguraduhin na may special tickets tayo para sa parade.
Parade po ba yun ng Manong G?
Siyempre, hindi naman pangkaraniwan ang parade na pupuntahan natin. May mga makikita kayo na hindi nyo pa nakakita sa buong buhay nyo.
Tara na, Manong G!
Sama kayo
Oh, kita-kits ulit tayo dito sa Mind School.
For another mind-blowingly cool adventure. Handa na ba kayo?
Parade po ba ito ng mga halaman at hayop?
It's not really as simple as saying plants and animals. Parada to ng mga lodis ang mga superstar ng Philippine Biodiversity.
Pero alam mo, kapag iniisip ang biodiversity, kadalasan sinasabi natin tungkol yan sa mga hayop at halaman. But we often forget that these make up ecosystems. Kaya yung mga ecosystems, lodi din. At sasali din sila sa parada.
Hi!
Hello!
Hi! Ano, excited na ba kayo? Well, I think the parade is about to begin. Yung parade natin ng Biodiversity Lodis ng Pilipinas.
Nakikita niyo ba yung nakikita ko?
Oo nga, napakaganda. Makulay at parang sapot. Gumagalaw na siya, parating na siya sa atin.
Yan yung parada na makikita niyo from afar. Pero lalapit din yan. Like any other beauty pageant, lalapit yan and mag-spotlight yan isa-isa. And we might be able to interact with them.